Now, first of all, let me just tell you that this video was inspired by this tutorial from a little bit over a year ago by Fable. Now, I'm not related or affiliated with them at all. They are basically like a motion graphics and animations app, web-based app, right? And they had this cool tutorial, and it was a 2-minute tutorial, and I don't think it will be as quick in DaVinci Resolve, but I'll try to make it as clear as possible so that you can follow along and actually learn and get better at things, right? So this is a tutorial. It's a 2-minute tutorial, and then they share a bunch of stuff like how to use their app. So if you want to check out their app, make sure to go to their website. I'm gonna link it somewhere, and then you can go from there. But if you want to do it in DaVinci Resolve, make sure to watch this whole video. All right, so this is what the animation looks like in DaVinci Resolve. I wanted to add a little bit of grain to it, but for some reason I couldn't figure out yet, because there was a few things that were happening and it was not working quite well. But I will figure that out later on and maybe add it onto it and explain on another video. Let me show you the node tree first of all, so that you get scared before we actually even start. This is what the little node tree looks like. It's a little bit complicated, right? But don't worry, I'll explain everything. And after watching this video, you will understand what's going on. Let's start with a new clean Fusion composition. First of all, we're gonna add a background node so that we have our canvas, obviously, right? I'm gonna make this transparent because I like to work it on transparent. We're gonna press Ctrl G, and now we have the guides. We're gonna use shapes in this case, so I'm gonna add an ellipse, and this is what we're gonna use to build the eyes and also the body. So I'm gonna create a couple of copies of these in a second. So the first thing that I'm gonna do for the eye is actually press 2, and then you can make these smaller like that. And that's gonna be the base. Now I need to add a border for it, right? So we have this one, and I'm gonna de-instance the color group, and also de-instance the solid, and de-instance the border width. Now I can change the color, make these darker, and then increase these border width. And we're not seeing anything on screen because we have to connect these two and create a merge node. Now if I press 2, we can see that there. Now since this is a shape, it looks like this, right? But don't worry, when we connect these to the main composition, it will look smooth and normal. All right, we're gonna need another set of these, right? So for the smaller part of the eye. And I'm gonna make these smaller like that. And I'm gonna connect both of these to this merge node. And now change the color of these inside of the eye. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. Make the border a little bit smaller, maybe like that. All right, now that we have one eye, what I can do is actually just press Ctrl spacebar and add a duplicate. And that's gonna bring another copy. And now I can offset these. Press 2 so we can see it on screen. And now we have that. But we're gonna need to move this a little bit, right? So to move these, it's pretty easy. All we have to do is add a transform. It's gonna go to the S transform. And now I can offset. And you can either offset these before you start, like here, like put these before the duplicate, and it will be basically the same thing. So it's up to you of which way you choose to do it. I wanna do it a little bit more. All right, now we are set on that. We have to build the body, also the mouth, and the fins. To build the mouth, it's basically another transform, an S polygon. I'm gonna use it right here. And I'm gonna connect this duplicate to that one, so we create a new merge node. Now I'm gonna just hold in shift, I'm gonna do that. Now make these a little bit bigger and change the color to black. Like that. And don't worry about these. This is gonna smooth out once I connect these. All right, now we already have the face. This is gonna be the face. You can either use an underlay or use a group to group all of these together, right? In this case, I'm gonna use an underlay, and I'm gonna have to make this a little bit bigger. Like that. And then you can actually name this face, just so that you can keep things a little bit more organized. That way whoop, this needs to be inside here. Okay, now we have our face right here. We're gonna use a render for these. And we're gonna connect these to the main composition so that we can see these already. That's what it looks like. And you can see that it's all smooth now. All right, so we're gonna use a multi-merge node to connect the different parts. That way it's a little bit easier to like layer up what's gonna be behind the actual body and all that stuff. Okay, so first we're gonna add the body. So I'm gonna copy these to build a body. And we have this render right here. We also need a render for this part right here. Render. And now I'm gonna add a multi-merge node. Instead of actually having these be the background on the multi-merge node, I'm gonna add a new background node and connect these there. Now this can be 0. That's gonna be the base of our background of our multi-merge node. That way all the other things actually show up in the layer list. Because the background doesn't show up on the layers, right? There. Now we have this layer and we can double click and rename this face. Now I can connect these and make these body and then make these go behind. If I press 2 on this multi-merge node, we can see this smaller circle, and I'm gonna make these bigger now so that we have the actual body like that. To animate the face later on, I'm gonna need also to add a position node right here. So I'm gonna do that right now already, a transform, an S transform, and I'm gonna rename this face position. I'm gonna move these a little bit like that. So that's gonna be the initial position. Like that, not in the middle exactly. All right, now we have to add the other shapes, which are the fins basically. To do that, I'm gonna use an S polygon. And I'm gonna create an instance of these and go to style, basically doing the same that I did for the other one, for the border on the eyes and the body. We go, and we can actually use that same border size or border width size. All right, now for these, I'm gonna have to connect these, and I'm gonna create an S render. That's gonna be for all the fins basically, but this is gonna be actually the right fin is gonna be separated from the other ones. So this one is gonna be the right F. And now once I draw these, let's draw these. Oh, I have to change the color of these actually, right? To change the color, you can pick screen right here and then make these a little bit darker maybe. Looks like our fish sunbathed or something, but it's okay. All right, now I'm gonna draw the fin, and to do that, I'm just gonna draw a triangle right here. And then I'm gonna press all of them, Shift S, actually just on this one, Shift S, and then adjust the curves of this one manually. I have to go to the instance and then change the color of the border. And then we're gonna change the color of this fin to be the same of the eye, pick screen color. There we have. Now, if this is too small, you can always make these a little bit bigger by just adjusting the points of the actual fin right here, of the polygon, right? Okay, we're gonna build the other ones using basically just copying on this one. But first, I'm gonna underlay these. So we have these other group of, for the top fin or the right fin. Now, when you select these, you can move all these together. So I'm gonna copy these 3 nodes, paste them right here. And I'm gonna create an S render. That's gonna be here already. And I'm gonna move these a little bit towards that side, so that's a little bit more organized. In this case, we want both of them to be sort of like similar style, so we can just use the Y rotation to rotate these. And then I'm gonna connect these S render to the multi-merge. And then make sure that these one, or like, let's call these behind, BTB, behind the body. There it goes, and we're gonna put this behind our body, right here. All right, so now we have the left fin right here. I'm gonna copy these right here. And I'm gonna connect these to this part right here with the merge node. Now I'm gonna use this one right here. I'm gonna reset the rotation and I'm gonna just bring this part or the polygon up here and move the points to create that top fin. If it gets crazy like this one, what you can do is simply just press Shift S and the curvature will be reset basically. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, we have 3 of them and we can use underlays to organize these. I'm gonna make these a little bit bigger. Left, then get rid of the other stuff. Now I'm going to use an underlay for this one, which is going to be the top one. Top fin. And once everything is there, what you can actually do is press Ctrl C and then Ctrl V and paste the whole thing. Now I'm just going to rename this tail. Now when I use this merge node and connect these to that one right there, and use that polygon to build the tail that we are going to use. For that, we can modify these exact one and add a new point right here. And basically just play around with the polygon shape until you get something that you like. Now, I'm not great at illustrating things, so maybe that's why it looks a little bit weird, but that's okay, right? Maybe it has to be aligned to the eyes a little bit. Or maybe it has to be a little bit bigger. Like that. There we have our fish. I think that's good enough. I think that's good enough for our fish. All right, so after that, we're gonna have to start the animation process. Now, since we want the face to move, there's one thing we have to do on this face render. We don't want the eyes to bulge out or come off, like fly out of the face, right? Unless that's what we want to do. To fix this or to avoid these, what we just do is we're gonna drag a normal ellipse right here, and we're gonna add these as a mask, and then just use the border of the body right here as a reference. Now, when we move these face position, it's gonna be there, and it's not gonna fly off screen. Basically, it's just gonna mask out that section. All right, so now the first thing we're gonna animate is gonna be the eyes. Now for the first position, we're gonna create a keyframe right here at frame 0. Now at frame 24, I'm gonna bring the eyes to the side, like that. Now I'm gonna copy this face position and use this same transform node on this merge node that we have here for the left or for the right fin. I'm gonna just name these our position. And let's take a look at these. It moves a little bit too much, so we can actually adjust these like that a little bit so that it doesn't move that much. And this is going to be 0. Let's take a look at how. All right, it looks good. Now I'm going to copy these and use these on the left one. Actually, we need to create a new merge node right here. And then connect these other ones to these merge node right here so that we have a merge node for this left one. All right, let's take a look. This has to be going to the other side. So we're gonna bring this a little bit there. And now the fish is moving and it looks like it's rotating like this. So you can see it right here. Okay, now we're gonna go to the top fin. So I'm gonna copy these again, paste it right there. Just rename these top fin position. And now in this case, what I'm gonna do is actually also animate the rotation, and I'm gonna be modifying the pivot point. The reason for that is that if I rotate it right now, it looks all right, but it looks better if we move the pivot point right here. You can see this green one. It looks a little bit more, I wouldn't say realistic, but it looks more attached, I guess. So now the fin itself is moving a little bit more, but you can play around and see what you end up liking, right? So yeah, I'm gonna leave it right there. I think that's good. All right, so we're gonna animate the position a little bit for that, and also the rotation right here, like that. Let's take a look. 0, 1. Now it looks like our fish is moving. All right, now for the tail, that's a different story. The tail initial position, It's not gonna be this one. The tail's initial position is gonna actually have to be behind the body, right? So it's gonna be the offset, and we are also gonna animate the X size for these so that the tail is a little bit behind our body. So we're gonna make these smaller like that, and I'm gonna offset this a little bit, maybe a little bit smaller like that. And now I'm gonna create the keyframes, and now at frame 24, I'm gonna bring these to 0 and then 0. Actually, this has to be 1. Now let's take a look at that. It looks pretty good and pretty connected, let's say. So it makes a little bit of sense, right? So there's one thing that we have to do also, is that for the fish to go back to normal, right? And for that, we're gonna go to each of these positions again, or nodes again. On the face position, I'm gonna open the keyframes, and then we're gonna have to go here to frame 48, which is not showing on our screen right now. So it's gonna be black, but don't worry about it. We're gonna press fit to screen right here, and I'm gonna copy that initial position right here. And if it doesn't paste right there, there it goes. Make sure that this is at 48. Okay, now the fish is actually gonna go back to normal right at 48. Now we're gonna do the same thing for this position right here, which is the right fin. Make sure it's at 48 by selecting the keyframe. We're gonna go to the left one, also do the same. And then we can also just select this and write it down right there. I'll do these for these two things. Oops, select them, take them to 48. And I'm gonna do that same thing for the tail. Copy them, holding Control. Oops, and set these to 48. On the Fable video, they actually explain a little bit of how to make this look better by creating a little bit of a delay effect on the tail movement. Alright, my second camera just overheated, so I just have one angle. So hopefully that doesn't die and things keep working. Alright, so on this video, on the Fable video, they did these so that it actually looks a little bit better, which is adding a little bit of a delay on the tail. To do that, what we are going to do is we're going to select these position, or the transform control that we have for the tail. We're going to drag all of these to the side to frame 24 if you want, or you can simply select here and go to -24, -24, and we're gonna copy these middle keyframes that we have here, and now set these up at -24. That way there's like a second here. And now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna use on the first one that I built, which is the GIF that you saw. I'm gonna move these and put these right here. So as the face is moving, there's already like the tail is going back basically. Now, the reason that it looks a little bit weird is because it looks too robotic, right? So I'm gonna select all of these nodes that we have used to create the position or the animations. And now I'm gonna go to the spline tool, select them all, and then press F. Now we have that fish moving a little bit, right? Now, to my liking, there's still something off with the tail, but I could spend a lot more time trying to figure out why it is, and it's just some small detail probably, but let me just continue and then we can fix that later on, and you can fix that later on when you are building it, right? Now, the next thing that we're gonna do is animating the fish so that it's actually moving around, right? So we're gonna use a transform here. Make sure it's the second one that has these position X values that you're able to move, and then just rename the side movement or whatever you want. And I'm gonna make these positions start at these right here. And then on 24, it's gonna go on this side. Then I'm gonna copy these one. I make these, change the value right here. There it goes. Take these to 48. I'm gonna create a copy of this one and bring this one to -24. And I'm gonna move these a little bit as well, like we just did with the tail. Maybe to like frame 7, let's see. There we have. Let me go back to the tail already and try to fix this a little bit. Let's see, tail position. It's not perfect, but it's good. Okay, now that we have the actual movement of the fish, we can select all of these things, holding Control. Opening the spline tool, I'm gonna actually make sure that everything is actually smooth, or press S. You can press S as well, and then you can ease in and ease out by pressing T a little bit. And now that's gonna make the movement a little bit more interesting. If it is too punchy, you can select everything and try to make it not as punchy. So play around with the ease in and out values until we get something that you like. All right, now there's a few things that we need to do. First of all, we're gonna need to add a shadow. Actually, I wanna make these a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna just use the merge node to make these smaller, like these. And I'm gonna copy this merge node because we're gonna use another one right here to create that shadow for the fish. To create the shadow, we're gonna use a background node first of all, and I'm gonna add another transform node, and I'm gonna connect this one right here, and I'm gonna use the transform node as a mask on this background node. Then I'm gonna connect this here, and I'm gonna bring this transform node down. Actually, we don't have to make this. Let's see. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add another transform node right here, and that's gonna adjust the size of our fish. That way the mask, that way it's not gonna get cut right there. Okay, so 0.6 is fine. All right, that way our merge nodes are actually just clean, basically covering the whole screen. All right, on this transform node, I'm gonna position the fish right there, and I'm gonna adjust the size X and size Y to make this a little bit smaller so that it looks like there's like a shadow coming from the top. Now to sell this effect a little bit better, or the shadow, we're gonna press Ctrl and spacebar and add a blur, and then increase this, and now we can see that it's moving a little bit. And you can play around with the amount of the blur that we're gonna add to this one. Now if you want the movement of these to be a little bit bigger, simply select this one, and I'm not sure what's not showing the path. I guess this one is not gonna show a path, but the other transform node does show a path. So we're just gonna have to adjust this manually. Let's see. Copy this value for the initial one as well. And let's take a look. I think the tail needs to go a little bit like further away. So let's bring these a little bit smaller like that. That looks fine. I guess that's good for a little lesson, right? All right, so now we have our fish and it's moving and it's alive. Well, not really, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, what we can do here now is add a few elements in the background. What I did here first was I'm gonna add this background. I'm gonna add color to these again. And let's see this yellow color. Then we're gonna use a mask for these. Make these with Y like that. That's good. And I'm gonna copy these. I'm gonna connect these there. And now I'm gonna change the color of these to a bluish and invert this mask. Now we have that background. And to have something that's on our background right here, what I did to create that little cloud that you saw on the GIF was I used a background node, and then I made these white, and then I added a bunch of ellipses. So let me press 2. just like these random, basically pretty random. Just copy, move these around, copy again, adjust the size of these maybe a little bit. So yeah, you can take your time, as much time as you want when you're building these like that. I think that's fine. We're gonna connect these, and then you can see that the cloud is showing up on top. We can add a transform node right here, and let me see. All right, yeah. So then we can just use this rectangle mask or the other one. Basically just copy and paste these. That's gonna be fine if you do that. Copy and paste that, and then invert these, and now the cloud is behind. Now we have our fish. Let me take a look at these without the blue screen protector. Yeah, the color of our fish is not good. Our fish got it's almost barbecued or something. I'm gonna change the color of the fish right here. Yeah, that was not nice. Take a look at the fish that they had. What was the color? Yeah. So for their fish had like the darker colors were in the eyes and stuff. So that's what we're gonna do. That's gonna look a little bit better, I think. Yeah. So to change the color, just go to the color sections right here, and now we can change the color of each of these elements. Double clicking and pasting that same color code, and there we have it. Now you can always play around and add more elements, animate other things, like you can animate the cloud maybe. One extra thing that I added that they didn't do in the tutorial was that I wanted to have the fish have a little bit of a floating animation. So I added another transform node right here in front of this movement, well, in front of the multi-merge, and then I just name these float or floating, whatever you want. Then what I did is I create a keyframe for the center or the position right there, and then bring this a little bit higher. Now we're gonna go to the spline, copy this one, put the value at 48, copy this other one, put the value at -24, press F on all of them, and now we can actually move these a little bit, try to match the change of direction maybe or something. Why is it going to not? There it goes. And there's our fish floating. Now the position of the keyframes, it's actually pretty optional, of like the duration as well, right? So that's what we have so far. It just looks like it's going in diagonal, but it's okay. All right, so if we take a look at these on the edit page, that's what it looks like. If you want to loop these, I would say that if you want to loop these, it's probably better to loop these in the edit page as well, unless you want to go ahead and like make sure to go to the spline tool and then loop these on all of the nodes that you have created keyframes on. Basically, you would just select all of these, not the render, but the position. Select these, and then what else has an animation? Yeah, nothing else is animated for now. So we can go to the spline tool, and then selecting all of these, you can simply create a set loop or a ping pong animation. And then if you make the fusion composition longer, then it will just continue. Well, there it goes. When you create a loop like that, sometimes it gets restarted. So what you can do is simply create a ping pong animation. Let's see. What if it looks with the loop one? Let's see, after frame 40. Yeah, in this case, you will have to create a ping pong animation. So set ping pong, and the movement will keep repeating itself, right? But then at the end of the fusion composition, it's gonna cut at exact point where it cuts, unless you actually match that, right? In this case, I matched these at 2 seconds, right? So the whole thing was created so that it actually looped perfectly at 2 seconds. And then you can actually just copy and paste this fusion comp, and it will continue to loop perfectly. So yeah, that is basically this fish. The video actually turned out to be a lot longer than I wanted to, but there was no other way to do that. If I wanted to explain things in detail, there was no other way than slowing down and trying to explain things as I was building it, right? I recorded for like 45 minutes earlier today, so this one is a little bit shorter, but I wanted to see if I could make this in a 10-minute video. I don't think it's possible unless I like jump through a lot of things and not explain things properly. If you found it useful, make sure to like this video and also check out the Fable app if you are interested in these sort of things and want to try it out, see if you enjoy using that more. Also make sure to check out SUALVI.com for the free assets and also the paid assets that I have built for DaVinci Resolve. Now, I'm not sure about, maybe I'll share the project files for this project right here, but there's one little extra thing that I want to build, and I will be sharing that in a little future video. And I think that's going to be a cool thing that's going to help a ton of people if they're building stuff or creating stuff inside DaVinci Resolve. Now, the cool thing with Fable is that they can actually use Figma. So if the designer creates an illustration in Figma, they can drop it directly in there because they have integrated it for DaVinci Resolve Fusion. And unfortunately, there's no way to do it seamlessly yet. Maybe in the future, as more people start using it for motion graphics and that type of stuff, it will be improved. But right now, when you drop an SVG with a bunch of stuff, it's just a big mess that gets all tangled up and it gets really confusing to see and read. So yeah, that is it for this video. And I'll see you in the next one here in SUALVI. Bye.